Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai roi lo ekzar. Bina deshe yar b'tzeni, ame menuchot yanachaleni. Nafshi yishovev, yancheni b'magle tzedek leman shemo. Gamma kilich begilze mavit, lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hamayinachamuni. Taruch lefanai shulchan, Negid surerai, Dishanta b'Hashem el roshi kosiravaya, Aktov v'chesed yudefuni, Kol yemechayai, V'shaveti b'veit Adonai, Le'urech yami. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit our loved one gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of their light and their warmth will always be with us, bringing us comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, bringing us healing and peace. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding. From fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Adonai has given, Adonai has taken away, and blessed be the name of Adonai. In the words of Hannah Senesh, there are a few things that remain constant, and we're thankful for those things, like the sand and the sea and the water and prayers in your heart. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam, hachu v'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat adam, hachu v'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, There's a time for everything. A time for every experience under heaven. A time for being born and a time for dying. A time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted. A time for destroying and a time for healing. For tearing down, for building up, for weeping and laughing and wailing and dancing. A time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones. A time for embracing and a time for refraining from embracing. A time for seeking, a time for losing. For keeping, for discarding, for tearing, for sowing. A time for silence and a time for speaking. A time for loving and a time for hating. A time for war and a time for peace. From Psalm 121, we turn our eyes to the mountains and we say, where does my help come from? Es ein el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai ose shamayim ve'aretz Aitin lamot raglecha Ayanu Hine lo yanum velo yasham shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzachayel yaminecha Yom ham hashamesh lo yakecha Ve'yareach balayla Adonai yishmor mikora, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tziltecha uvoecha. Me'ata Me'ata ve'ad olam. There's a prayer in the Mishkan Tefillah, the Siddur for Reformed congregations, that is read prior to the Mourner's Kaddish. We're not going to say the Mourner's Kaddish yet, but I feel that this prayer it's really more of a meditation. I feel like it's something that we can take with us no matter when we read it. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you with something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I want to live. I want to give. I've been a miner for a heart of gold. It's these expressions I never give that keep me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old. We all know that these are the words of Neil Young, and these words could never be truer right now. Words most appropriate for a man whose last name was Hart, and who certainly had a heart of gold. Melvyn Stewart Hart was a man who had tragedy befall him at a very young age. His parents divorced when he was a toddler, and after his mother remarried, she passed away unexpectedly the day after his bar mitzvah. He was raised by his stepfather and other family members, and then ultimately had to move to Lorraine for the remainder of his high school years. He was constantly going back and forth from Lorraine to Cleveland to visit family and friends, a regular occurrence which was anything but regular for most people. He learned to work odd jobs as a youngster, whether it was selling ice cream, tending to horses, or slicing deli meats. He did whatever he could to help the family make ends meet. And yet, against all odds, he somehow found stability. He had a loving sister, Debbie, who was a big part of his teenage life. And he had uncles who were eager to have him work in the paint company, providing the start to a career that spanned the better of 60 years. As Nikki said, for someone who could have been jaded by a difficult young life, Mel was the exact opposite. He looked at life with fresh eyes, with a focus on people-pleasing, and with an energy to make the best life for himself and for anyone who crossed his path. After meeting Lois at a party where they were instantly attracted to each other, Mel knew he found the woman he would marry. Since it seemed to be a trend back then to marry before you were 20, Mel and Lois started early, and they began their family when Mel was 21 years old. At that time, he was working at Sheffield, the family paint company, where he started as a salesman, and then eventually worked his way up to general manager, a title that would precede him becoming the owner of the company. Mel was very proud of the company, for it was known around Cleveland as the company whose gold leaf paint covered the grand ceilings in the arcade downtown, as well as Severance Hall. He would talk to anyone who asked about the paint and brag that his company created this beautiful covering. Mel and Lois moved to Mayfield Heights and lived there for 32 years, raising their children, Heidi, Wendy, and Randy. And as I said before, Mel did whatever it took to make ends meet. This continued as he tried to give only the best to his family. He even took on a side job of leasing cars. I'm told it was actually his passion project. He and Bert Task started the Deluxe Auto Leasing Company, and that was the beginning of Mel's car fetish. Mel would teach you how to buy a car, how to wash a car, how to fix a car, and even if you didn't ask, he would still tell you. He loved cars. Oh, and he also loved boats and motorcycles, and shoes and coats, but I will explain that later. Mel loved the big boy toys. He loved riding motorcycles. He and what I just called the Jew crew, he and Merle Gordon and Howard Cohen, would love to go cruising. He also enjoyed going out on the water on his boat, and he loved buying, selling, and fixing cars. It was all part of his passion for life, finding the gold amongst the stone, finding joy in order to bring it to others. Yesterday, after I met with his family to learn about Mel, I was exhausted. Everybody had a wonderful memory to say that was louder than the next. It was a glorious cacophony of stories told by those who would all say how much they loved him. And do you remember when he would do this? And do you remember when he did that? And even though the stories were a little different from one another, they all had the same theme. Mel had a heart of gold. He would do anything for his family, for his friends, for his extended family, for his employees. The list goes on and on. Karen, you said how when your husband passed away and left you with 3 little kids, Mel took you on a walk, told you not to worry, that he would take care of you and your family. He moved you into his house and helped you raise your children. Randy, you told me when your cousin Joe, who was very close in age to you, was growing up, your dad became his dad. He coached his Little League team. He made sure he had a loving childhood with a father figure. He treated Joe like a son, making sure that he felt like an equal part of your family. And Lori, Mel was obsessed with you. I think because you mowed the lawn, painted the house, managed the books. He was amazed by how you could do all those things that Jewish girls would pay somebody to do. But all kidding aside, you two had a very special relationship, even up to the end, when you would help out at the plant, and the two of you would share the hot dog at the desk. It was a very special end for him. Heidi and Wendy, there were so many stories, but the overwhelming theme was that you said how your dad would do anything for you and your siblings. He would find a way to give you 3 anything you wanted without disclosing the fact that maybe he couldn't afford it. And the way he was able to do that was called going generic. He lived for the bargain. He chased the deal. If he couldn't afford to buy it, he would find a way to make it himself. I love the story, Randy, that you told yesterday about the Mayfield green leather jacket. Instead of buying the jackets that were sold by the school, Mel found a way to find the jacket somewhere else, look for the lettering somewhere else, and have it made so that he could say he got a great deal on the jacket. Mel's way to show love was not merely confined to giving his family what they desired. It was also showing them how to do things that they might need help doing, like making coffee or cleaning the car properly. Nikki, you called it papa-ing. He took pride in explaining the proper way to do things, and he did so by demonstrating even if you didn't want him to or didn't ask him to. Here's how you measure the coffee. Here's where the filter goes. Things like that. But he would do it for everybody. You all told me that Lois never pumped gas in her life, never cleaned her car, never paid a bill. That was Mel, being the consummate giver, doer, and fixer. Aside from teaching Randy how to gamble, Mel was close to being a saint. He truly knew how to spoil his grandchildren. Dana, you said how during your Hanukkah gift exchange, well, I think you called it Secret Santa, but we won't tell anybody you said that, okay? Whoever drew his name knew that they were getting a coat. See, I'm circling back to the coat fetish. He made sure you all had coats and good shoes. And I think, in his own adorable way, he was trying to protect you all from the elements of life. Dylan, you said how he would give you ice cream for breakfast. Because when you asked, he said there really is no difference between ice cream and cereal with milk, really, right? Your papa loved you and lived up to his name, and he taught you a life lesson by hiring you to work in the plant. It showed you what it meant to do hard work. It kept you honest and became the motivating force for you to find a career that would make you happy. And he did it again to everyone, wanting to help and protect everyone he knew and loved. Mel was the papa to everyone. And apparently he had a guy for everything. If any of you needed something, he had a guy for that. You couldn't buy anything or fix anything without running it by Mel so that he could refer you to a guy who could help you do that. Instead of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, it was 6 degrees of Mel Hart. Mel wanted the best for you and gave you all the best that he could. He found a way to be a companion to all of you throughout his life. Anytime you needed something, anytime you wanted something, he was there for you. Before I close, I would like to call his sister Debbie to say a few words.
Well, I am honored to talk about my brother, Melvyn Stewart Hart, although he would hate that because he only liked to be called Mel. He was like, don't call me that. I don't like that. But 85 years was just not enough time. It just wasn't. And if I haven't learned anything in this life, it's that nobody knows what tomorrow brings. And we have to live every single day because that's what's important. Mel and I were 12 years apart. He remembers living with his mother and having our dad pick him up on the weekends. I only remember him as the brother whose bedroom was across from mine. I never knew a time without him, and I loved going in his bedroom. He had this big bed. We only had twin beds, and we'd jump on it, and I didn't even realize that he was like 17 years old, and I was only 5. So no wonder he thought I was probably an annoying little sister. But we did it anyways, and he had this headboard, which eventually was Randy's, and I think Dylan had it, and it had a bookcase and these sliding doors, and we used to swing them, and oh my gosh, he hated that. But he hated worse when we'd go in the car, backseat of the car, and ask him to please take us for a ride, especially if Lois was visiting, because she'd snuggle up next to him, we'd go, "You have a girlfriend." And I'm sure he's probably ready to throw us out and throw us in the lake. But he was really good. He always treated me like a little sister. And then time went by, whatever, he got married, and my dad died when I was 15, and Mel was 27, and, the years were busy. Mel was raising 3 little kids and with Lois and working hard, and I was busy growing up. And so I didn't see him for several years. But then one night, I was at a party, and Bert Task came up behind me, and he tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, either I brought someone here to see you or someone's here to see you. And he turned around, and right there was Mel. And we looked at each other, and this is like 45 years ago. We looked at each other. Both of us had tears in our eyes. We hugged each other, and we never let go. And we built a relationship based on love and mutual respect. And from that day to this. And that wasn't easy. We had no cell phones, no email. All we had was phones and stopping over and making, important to be together. And we did. And we had an unspoken bond that's lasted all these years. Mel was a real salesman. He was a people person. And like my dad, he had a name for everybody. He called them all kinds of names, but he had a name for everyone. He told stories to everyone. He talked to everyone. And then he told more stories, and he told stories again. And like we said, he had a guy for everything. One time, one of my kids needed body work on the car. He said, I got this guy. I got 2 guys. Go to this garage. If he's not there, go next door to that garage. If they're not there, give me a call. Another time, I called him just to say I was coming to town when my kids were moving. Oh, don't tell him to get anything. I have a basement full of stuff. I'll bring my truck home. I'll move it. I'll take it. He always helped everybody. He always had a guy. He always treated everybody, like Kathy said, he treated everybody the same. And he made sure that I knew how to do things. Check the tire pressure. If you don't know how to check the tire pressure, next time you come, I'll take the thing out and I'll check it and I'll put air in it. I have it in my garage. Don't put windshield wiper fluid in. Don't dare buy windshield wiper fluid. I'll put it in for you. But I think he liked being needed. Family was number one to him. And he had a great work ethic. He taught all the kids. He was honest. He was loyal. He was generous. He was genuine. He would give you anything if you thought you needed it. One day he came home, and I was playing Rummikub with Lois, and he had this thermo flask. And he said, oh, this flask, it keeps your coffee hot all day. And I said, oh, Mel, I need that. What kind is it? I need that because I love hot coffee. And he said, wait, I got a couple more someone gave me. And he opened the cupboard, and he took them out, and Lois said, one of those are mine. He was going to give me. And I said, I only need one. It's okay. And I mean, he was just like that. And I never, in the 26 years I think that I lived in Moreland Hills, every time I was there and I went to leave, he'd be putting his coat on. I go, where are you going? He'd go, I'm going to walk out with you. He was walking out with me to tell me, First start the car. Then, could you turn the wheel this way and back out a little? Then turn the wheel back this way. Okay, now you could go forward. You'll go right out the street, then turn right. He treated me always like a little girl. But one other time, I called him from Florida. I was going to stay with my granddaughter. She was just born. And I said, Mel, I'm going to be in town. I'm going to be here for a while. He goes, you need a car? I said, well, I'm going to be there like 7 months. He goes, well, that's okay. You'll take Lois's car. But about 20 years ago, his 65th birthday, Randy and Lori had a wonderful party for him, and I was so impressed because all his friends stood up and talked about him. What a wonderful friend he was. How he had saved one of their lives pulling off the road. A friend of his having a stroke, and how he stayed with it, called the ambulance, how he did things for this friend and that. And I thought, I was really impressed. What a great guy. So I called him the next day, and I wanted to tell him that. And he told me I had to come over because I had to see, I think it was the Blue Dog, a picture that the kids bought him for that birthday, and he had to show me. He was so proud that they bought him that. So I went over, and when I was there, I told him, I said, Dad would be really proud of you. I said, for the man you are, you're a great husband, you're a wonderful father with terrific kids, a wonderful grandfather, a friend, and a great brother. We had a lot of fun together, and he was a lot of times a shoulder for me, and I will miss him the rest of my life. If Mel could have written their final chapter, I think it would have been like The Notebook, peaceful and together. And I'm going to choose to remember him that way. Thank you.
Nikki?
So, my pop. First, he was born, which goes without saying. This Bugs Bunny quote always makes my family laugh because we joke that this is how my papa started every story. From the beginning, take it from the top. But this is how my Papa Mel communicated with the world, his stories. He wanted to tell everyone everything he knew, just in the hope that something in his past would help you now. But that's who he was. My Papa Mel did whatever he could to help all of us. Be it a long-winded story, finding one of his guys, or MacGyvering the solution himself, by God, he was going to do whatever it took to help us. His help was so beautiful that he was known throughout the Cleveland community. Everyone knew that that mustachioed man could be counted on whenever you needed him. Because he would always show up. Always. I won't forget how you loved us and taught us how important family is. I won't forget everything you showed me how to do, even when you popped it and did it yourself. I love you and I will never forget you.
That big smile underneath that big mustache was always there, every day. He loved as many dogs over the course of his life, showering them with his affection. He loved being able to color match in his head the many paint formulas that he created over the years. He loved his family beyond reproach. And most of all, he loved his wife, Lois. You know, it's very unusual for a couple to be married for so many years and be fortunate enough to not witness the other one die. In the later stages of his Alzheimer's disease, Mel was spared the understanding that his wife had passed away. This was truly a blessing that no one could have predicted. So I'm going to end with a few more song lyrics. In the words of James Taylor, can tell what era I grew up, right? Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way you feel. Things are going to be much better if you only will. And that's exactly what Mel did. He showered you all with love, with his heart of gold. He was a loving husband, a father to many, grandfather, mentor, and a good friend. And now I'm sure that we can all picture him and Lois sitting together in a shiny car with a full tank of gas. And no doubt he's saying, "Lois, please." May the memory of Melvyn Hart be a blessing to this family. May his heart of gold shine bright and bring you comfort knowing that he is at peace. Amen. Please rise for the memorial prayer. Malay Rachamim, Jochem B'maramim, Hamzeh Menucha Nechana, Tachach Anfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Otorim, Kezar Hadokim Atzirim, Et Nishmat Moshe ben Avraham v'Sara shehalach le'alamo Ba'al harachamim yosirehu b'setek kanafav le'alamim V'yitru b'yitzror hachayim et nishmatu Adonai hu nachalato V'yonuach b'shalom u'nishkavo Really compassionate God on high, to our loved one, Melvyn Stewart Hart, who has entered eternity. Grant him clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold him in the embrace of your wings. Secure his soul in eternity. Adonai, he is yours, and may he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. This concludes our service. Please wait for a moment for further instruction.
It's daytime and your headlights will not come on automatically. Sit to the front or rear of the chapel if you need. Thank you very much. Good job.
Oh, as we did until the day I died. Yeah, let's see. And